Although he never had time to enjoy it, Anson made millions from Amityville in comparison with the Lutzes, whose share was said to be only $250,000. However, George still stands by the author and the book.
He had the most difficult of jobs to explain something he didn't believe in or understand, and he managed a very, very accurate book compared to anything else that's ever been done since.
But accuracy was not something that troubled the makers of the Amityville horror film.
From the best-selling book that made millions believe in the unbelievable.
The original movie took real license, with blood dripping down the walls and the flies attacking the priest the way they did. They could have just as easily have done the flies the way they really happened.
I wasn't really concerned about whether or not it was a true story. It didn't matter to me. I had to create a reality of my own.
I'm coming apart! Oh, Mother of God, I'm coming apart!
I had for 25, 28 years, whatever it is, that's such a terrible problem with that film. It's like a documentary compared to what's been most recently done.
George Lutz dislikes the recent film so much that he is suing its makers, MGM. This is the latest of many legal actions he has taken over the years in order to protect the facts of what he claims is the true story. And since Kathy Lutz's premature death earlier this year, he must now do this alone.
She and I experienced this together, and we moved past it together. And we tried to explain it to the world, if you will, together. Her passing means I lost my partner of that experience. That doesn't give license to anyone to create some kind of revisionist history now of what she had to say while she was alive.
But there are some who say that Kathy's death is the most recent example of the evil influence of the house in Amityville.
One of the things that happened to her in the house is she looked into the mirror and she saw this old lady in the mirror. She died in Phoenix of a disease, of a respiratory disease that caused her to age about 30 years. So when she passed away, she really looked very old.
It affected Ronald DeFeo one way. It affected the Lutzes another way. It affects everybody that goes into that house.
There have been a lot of other things that have happened during this case where unusual deaths, but you know, it's got to be attributed to coincidence, nothing else.
People want to believe there's something supernatural. There's something beyond just us. There's a heaven. There's a hell. There are prayers that are answered. There are spirits. There are ghosts. We want to believe in that kind of phenomena. We have a need to. And with that need comes the gullibility factor, frankly, when somebody says, oh, this is a true story.
It's the most documented event of its kind in terms of how many people were involved, how many people witnessed on their own or saw their own or have had their testimony unchanged for all these years.
Do I believe that they were in that house for 28 days? No. Categorically, undeniably, no.
I think that they had this whole thing planned, and they were going to write a book about it and make themselves a lot of money. And, you know, they did.
If a story sounds like it's too good to be true, it probably is. And this was exactly a perfect example of this, possibly the most monumentally successful example of that I've ever encountered, and probably ever will encounter in my lifetime. I don't think we'll ever see another Amityville, or I hope not.
They weren't there. They didn't live it. They didn't experience it. And yet they would explain it to you. And that's really a disservice to everyone.
Unless we get a spirit who actually shows up and explains it on camera, which I doubt is going to happen, we're not going to know. So we will keep pursuing the elusive thing, whatever that thing is.
The current inhabitor of the house doesn't believe in any of it. Belief or disbelief has nothing to do whatsoever with what happens. I wish him well. I hope that spontaneous fires will not disturb his sleep or whatever else he does. And I wait for the headlines if and when they occur.
There's more real-life horror tomorrow with The Real Vampire Chronicles at 5 to 11. Next, Jamie Lee Curtis stars with her mum Janet Lee for the first time ever in the John Carpenter horror The Fog.